There was a gentleman in the club who wasn't a non-smoker. He'd gone to his car. As he was coming back, he saw the chaos spilling out the front door. It's like the Titanic sinking. If one thing had been different, it wouldn't have happened. This fire, same thing. If one thing had been different, if there'd been a fire extinguisher on the stage, if there'd been any fire extinguishers there at all that night. And the guy says to me, he goes, well, if money was no object and you were buying this club, what's the first thing you would do? And I said, I'd burn it down and start from scratch in place of the death trap.
All right, we're joined today by Linda Saran. Linda, I believe you were Linda Richards at the time of the concert?
Actually, it was Fisher.
Linda Fisher. And you went to the Great White concert at the Station Nightclub in Rhode Island,
I did.
which turned into a nightmare for many, many people. Can you tell me what about the concert? Great White. Are you a fan of the band? Were you a fan of the band?
I could say I'm a pretty big fan of the 80s, even to this day. I mean, if it was Winger, White Snake, Warrant, Great White, I mean, they were all, I mean, Journey's my absolute favorite. But yeah, 80s music's my thing. That's still what I listen to. That's what my grandchildren have to listen to in the car. Um, and I'm still a fan of Great Whites. I've actually seen them probably more since the fire than previous.
Well, that's fascinating. And you have obviously an odd relationship with the band. And can we talk about the band for a second? Because Jack Russell is no longer with us. And the band who played that night, from what I understand, was not actually Great White of the 80s. It was Jack Russell's Great White. So what is the band made up of now, or who?
Now it's Mark Kendall, Michael Lardy, Audie, Scott, and they have this new kid, Brett, who is amazing. He's the closest thing you're going to get to Jack out there. I mean, the kid's incredible. His vocals are on point, and his stage presence is unbelievable. I mean, he's been on stage wearing those Healy things where he's rolling around.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's still, the older guys, Mark and Michael and all, everyone that's my age here, um, they still bring it. They're still a tight band, but having a front man that's 26 is a bonus for them.
Is this similar to In Excess? I don't know if you remember, they had a reality show where they found a replacement lead singer for Michael Hutchence and wound up, with a guy who's probably 20 years younger than the rest of the band and toured with them for a while.
Never really followed them, so I wouldn't know.
Or Queen with Adam
Adam Lambert with Queen,
yeah,
yeah.
Adam Lambert.
Yeah. I think he's a great fit for Queen. Um, I think Brett was just somebody that they had heard through the grapevine. They needed a singer one weekend to do a one gig, and they asked him, "Hey, can you learn this set list?" He did. He flew out there. They did it, and it worked. So they asked him to fill in a few more times, and now he's touring with them.
All right, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
One other high point, though, is I believe you actually got on stage yourself and you sang. Was it with Jack Russell?
In 2003 in Pennsylvania, Allentown, Pennsylvania, I actually got on stage and sang with Jack. For a moment, he ended up, once he realized I could actually kind of carry a tune, he said, "You're on your own." And he wandered off and I get to finish the song. And then in 2013, I was on a cruise ship and I got to sing with Great White when Terry was singing with the band. That didn't go
Wow.
as smoothly though. I didn't have my own mic. I didn't have any earbuds, no floor monitors. It was a mess, but it was fun. The crowd liked it.
That's that is amazing. That is amazing. And how we're kind of going backwards in time in a weird sense before the incident, but how did that feel in 2003? Did it kind of was that helpful to healing at
I
all?
went I went to go see Great White in Pennsylvania because I wanted to go see them and not have anything bad happen to me. Like, I had to get through that first song because I didn't wanna spend the rest of my life afraid to go to concerts. I mean, I'm 30% burned, half scarred because of the surgeries and stuff, and, I had to make a decision. Am I gonna hide from the world? Am I gonna sit home on the couch and cry? Or am I gonna get out and live? And I chose to just bite the bullet, go out, do it. The first show I saw after the fire was Nelson, Matt and Gunner, and the two of them were absolutely fabulous. Those are two great guys. And then after that, it was like, okay, I can do this. In New England, society is acceptable of burn victims because they just assume everyone with scars that's from the station fire.
Mm.
So it's a pretty big community. You don't get too many stares. But, leaving my comfort zone and going to Pennsylvania to see Great White, it's like, okay, this is a whole new ball game of, people are going to be like, wow, look at her. And at the time, I was still very purple, very flaky, and I hadn't had any of the plastic surgery on my face yet. So I was a hot mess, to look
Wow.
at. It was not pleasant.
How do you react to that? I'm being, sincere because it's a lot of people don't know how to interact with somebody who has a
Differences.
disfigurement,
Yeah.
essentially. And is it best to just directly address it and get it out of the way, to ignore it, or try to look? I I am I am genuinely curious, and I think a lot of the audience might want to know. We want to be sympathetic, but we everybody has their own odd reaction.
Yeah. For me, I rather people just outright ask. Or, a simple comment like some lady reached out to me one day. She put her hand on the back of my hand and she's like, "Oh, looks like you've been through something." And she just kind of smiled and, went away. Um, my reaction to people is usually based on how they approach me. If I get like the weird stares or like a comment, or like one lady said, "Hey, what the F happened to you?" And I said to her, "Don't ever fall asleep in a tanning booth." Um,
Okay. Do you mind people asking what happened to you in public? And I know you're only speaking for yourself. There may be other people who have suffered who may be completely different in their reactions.
for me, I'd rather someone ask. One of my best experiences was what I was at a campground and there was a band playing and we were kind of sitting under the pavilion and there was some little girl, she must have been about 4, maybe 5 years old, and she was staring from across the way. I could see her and her family was kind of like trying to like shush her and move her and like distract her and she wasn't hearing it. She eventually came over and sat down next to me and she was staring at my arm and she finally looked up at me and said, "Does it hurt?" And I
Hmm.
said, "Nope, it just looks funny. It doesn't hurt anymore." And in her small child voice, she screamed across the pavilion, "It doesn't hurt anymore. It just looks funny." Which the
How did you
entire
feel?
family wanted to die. You could see all the adults were like, "Oh God, this kid."
Uh,
But
And were you laughing?
oh, I thought it was hysterical because like everybody stopped and turned but all the child cared about was whether or not it hurt. Like that,
Which is
like her
beautiful.
empathy. Yeah. That's all
That's
she
a
cared about. She didn't care what it looked like.
that is a beautiful thing. So, you know what? Let's do that. Can you tell me what happened?
Well, you
Let's
mean
lead up
like
to it. Tell me about the concert, how you heard about it. I mean, was this like your 5th Great White concert? Did they regularly come through town? Just tell me things, leading up to the actual event. How did you find out about it?
I was a regular at the station. I was there so often that that particular night when Dan Beakley was looking for someone to sell merchandise, he had gone to the owners and said, "Hey, do you have an employee that can run our merch table?" And they said, "No, we don't have anybody extra on. But there is a woman here who is friends with our bartender that she's a regular. We trust her. So if you want to ask her." And strangely enough, I was at the back bar talking to the bartender. She was my tenant, she's my friend. She was my ride there that evening. I had gone to her because I wanted my keys. I wanted her keys, I should say. I wanted my jacket. I wanted to leave. Um, Earlier in the night, the last thing I said to my then husband, Kevin, was, I have a bad feeling about this. I don't want to go. And he said, well, stay home with me then. And I said, well, I can't. It's my friend's birthday. I already bought her ticket. I can't blow her off. So I left.
What
But
what
I
what
was there.
what gave you that bad feeling?
I don't know, that sense of just like get out, don't go, like that little tingling in the back of your neck there, your hair stands up and all that. Just an overall bad feeling of just not wanting to go.
Have you ever
And
had that before
oh
or
yeah.
since?
Oh yeah. I had a dream one night of falling upstairs and I woke up that next day. I was like, how the heck does one fall upstairs? And a few days later, as I was falling upstairs going to class in middle school, as I was falling, the color of the t-shirt that I was wearing, the books that I was holding, it was a sense of deja vu as it was happening. I've had that kind of stuff happen a lot in life.
In the case of the falling, and I don't wanna sidetrack it all, but is it possible that, I think the term is that it's not projected, but it's something similar to like because you
Well,
dreamed it, you kind of manifested it in real life possibly?
no, because the reason I fell was because my shoelace had become untied and the person behind me going up the stairs had stepped on it. So when I went
Ooh,
to lift my foot, someone was standing on it and
that'll
forward
do
I
it.
went. Yeah. So it wasn't one of those things, but friends and I in a car one night, teenagers blasting down the highway doing a stupid speed, slowed down because we knew the spot where the officer always sat. We got past that spot and my friend went to floor it and I said, "No, don't." And he said, "What are you talking about? The cop's not there." I said, "Yeah, I know, it's something else." And
Mm.
he didn't floor it and we came around the corner and we found the cop. He was putting a tarp over a body laying in the middle of the road, and
Oh,
if we had floored it and come around that corner like my friend wanted to, we would have nailed either the cop, the body, the crashed car, or the officer's car. So
oh,
it's
wow.
it's weird that it happens to me randomly, but so now I trust that feeling.
Well,
If I'm somewhere
yeah.
and that little spidey sense kicks in and says, "Leave," I leave. But the night of the fire, I was at the back bar to get her keys. I was about to tell her, "I'll come back at 1:30 and get you, but I'm gonna go. I have a bad feeling about this." When I was asked to run the merch table, he said he'd give me 40 bucks and a t-shirt, and my friend said 40 bucks and 2 t-shirts. And I said, "All right, I'll stay on one condition. I don't wanna be stuck in the back corner of this place. If I'm gonna stay, I wanna see the show. We need to put the merch table up front in the atrium."
Did you
So
ever get the T-shirt? I'm sorry, I have to ask.
I did, but it got cut off me and lost.
Oh, man.
Um, a
Now
a
can we
side a side story is the EMT that was taking care of me robbed me blind of all the money I had gotten from the merch table.
no way.
So my clothes went missing because all the money was in my pants pocket. When he cut open my jeans and all the money spilled out, I heard him say like something like, "Oh shit," because a couple $100, like at least $600 fell out of my pants.
Uh,
But that's a whole
did you
side
report
story.
that?
Yeah, they couldn't find any information though because the EMT was kind enough to not put my name on my paperwork or his name or his town, city, any information that would identify him. Um, and 5 of us told him my name when I was being put into an ambulance. My friend that I was there with that night, my friend who worked at the mall with me, my husband, and somebody else had all said my name. They loaded me into the ambulance and I vanished for like 12 hours because they couldn't find me because on the ambulance ride, I was diverted from one hospital to another. And my name on the paperwork was Luigi Fisher, clearly spelled
Jesus.
Luigi, not like a missing something in Linda, something a little squiggly. It said Luigi. So We never found out which POS stole the money because the band ended up telling me. I talked to Jack that night in Pennsylvania, and he's like, "Oh, any money you got from that show," he's like, "You just keep that." And I was like, "If I ever track down the guy who stole it, I will." But my ID, my debit card was in my back right pocket. So even if someone found the pants and found like you it was just all sketchy.
That is horrible. You said you
Supposed to be
talked to Jack
was
that night. So was Jack going around talking to survivors then?
the night in Pennsylvania, yes, we had arranged with the club owner because about 2 small buses of us went to Pennsylvania to see Great White. It was like all of us, like a big first time in a room together of survivors. There was about 30 of us, I think, and we had booked some time ahead of time to sit and talk with the guys, one on one. No, I mean, there was TV crews there because they heard we were coming down, but for the most part, it was just us talking to either Mark or Jack privately, one on one.
And you don't have to reveal any conversation as private, but how was Jack to you all? He seemed to be separated from it quite a bit. I'm not going to blame him. There's, obviously legal jeopardy and things like that he had to consider. But did you feel like he genuinely felt for you and what happened and was carrying a burden himself?
I felt at the time, I actually feel that way still. In that moment, I believe he was sincere when he said he'd wished that this had never happened to me, to the rest of my friends and stuff. I felt he was sincere. I think in the years following the fire up until his death, I think he got a lot of bad advice from people. I think someone used to say to him in like December or January, "Hey, you know what would be a good thing for ticket sales? Let's do a benefit concert." Forgetting that the Station Family Fund had given him a cease and desist order 20 years ago saying,
Well,
"We don't want to associate with you. We don't want your money. Thanks, but no thanks." But I think he had someone whispering in his ear going, "Hey, you know what would get some publicity going for you? Let's tell them we're doing a benefit concert." And then, he'd do interviews and he'd talk trash about my friend Vicky and my friend Gina because she was part of this board. This one was that board member. And then it would just get him a lot of attention, which I think he craved at that point because he was an aging rock star that was, doing these small venues, selling maybe 10 tickets. He just wanted what he had in his heyday. And I think he was getting bad advice.
how do you feel about him overall?
Um, I know some people hate him. I never did. To me, his job was to show up and sing. Um, there was so many other people that it was legitimately their paying job to make sure that this didn't happen to us, and they failed us miserably. But I can't see blaming the band, like Mark Kendall was there that night. I don't blame Mark. Mark was showed up. He was hired to play guitar. That was his job. He wasn't supposed to inspect the building, see if there's fire extinguishers on the stage and all that kind of stuff. So,
It has been said, and I'm not trying to be mean, um, to him or anything else or to his memory, there's been said that he wasn't necessarily the brightest guy in terms of being able to foresee everything around him. He was a musician, he's a singer, and that's what he did. He didn't really think about the details. Is that an unfair statement?
um, he wanted the big show. He wanted the pyro. He wanted to relive the heyday. The club owner in Pennsylvania, when we went down there, I guess that gentleman owned 2 clubs, and Great White had played at his other club on the 18th or the 19th. And when they were setting up their pyro, he happened to come across and said, "What in the heck are you doing? Look at this place. You can't use pyro in here. What are you, stupid? I can't believe you're even attempting to do this. Like, you didn't ask me. You didn't." So, like, he was just told within like 40 hours of the station fire, "What are you, an idiot? You can't use this kind of stuff in small venues." I think he was naive. Think he thought, "Hey, I'm a rock star. I know what I'm doing." I mean, I don't. I don't think he gave it much thought. I think he thought, "Hey, this is gonna enhance the show, so let's just do it."
I just want to give credit where it's due because the club kind of had a history. By that I mean the station.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you were a regular. Can you tell me about the club? Was it a dump? Was it? Is that a mean statement? It really wasn't a dump, but it was, just tired. How would you describe it?
And I think it was late November, early December of 2002, Jeff and Michael were trying to sell the club, and I was there, and it was earlier in the night because I had, again, driven with my tenant, my friend Julie, the
Mhm.
bartender. So we had gotten there, like, at 7 o'clock. So there was nobody in there. The house lights were still on, and Jeff and Michael are walking around with this guy, and they're like, "Oh, hey, this is one of our regulars, and this is so and so. He's thinking of buying the club." And the guy says to me, he goes, "Well, if money was no object and you were buying this club, what's the first thing you would do?" And I said, "I'd burn it down and start from scratch. This place is a death trap."
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there weren't a lot of known exits to anyone. I mean, I knew where a few were because, I was always there. Like, I knew there was one through the kitchen. I knew there was one on the other side of the horseshoe bar, just because of all the times I'd been there with, the lights on. But for
Is that how you
anyone,
survived?
no, actually, being told by a firefighter when I was about 4 years old to never hide in a fire, to lay down on the floor in front of a door or a window, um, that when wait for fireman boots, a firefighter that's, yeah, I don't know if the call that my nana's brother, so my great uncle, was a firefighter. His kids are firefighters, stuff like that. So I was little. We went by the station, I guess, just to say hi. And this firefighter put me on his knee and said, "Don't you ever hide. You lay in front of a window, you wait for fireman boots to show up." So that was my first instinct. I said to my friend, I said, "We can't go to the front door. We'll die. We'll get crushed. We'll get trampled because everyone only thinks there's one way out." And the fire had started near the stage door, so I knew that wasn't gonna be a safe option. I knew there was a fire station right there up the street. So I figured where we were in the atrium was a good foot below the dance floor level. So I knew we'd have plenty of oxygen, that it would be cooler. We had the merch table above us. I said to her, "We're gonna lay on the floor and wait for fireman boots to show up." And
That
unfortunately,
is
time
brave because you're getting burned that whole time that you're waiting.
at that point, I don't think we were. I don't think it had gotten hot enough because with the atrium,
Mm.
even the ceiling was lower. So all the heat, all the smoke was in the main room where the stage was. I mean, it hadn't even gotten hard to breathe yet when the main room, it flashed over. Like, it was like that movie Backdraft when you see it, it was exactly like that. And that's when I said, "Okay, now we're running out of time." I'm only burned because I stood up and went to the window off to the side of me, and I put my hands against the glass and I tried to kick out the window. I had
Oh,
forgotten that what used to be single paned glass in that whole atrium, somebody had backed into it with a truck a few years earlier and broke those corner windows. So when they were replaced, they were double paned safety glass. And at the
oh
moment,
no.
I wasn't thinking about that. So
So the
I actually
only
got
strong
burned.
part of the club that was
Right.
run
Yeah.
down.
The only safety glass in the entire building, and I found it.
How about
So
wow.
this is all from the heat only. The fire never came anywhere near us. This is just from the heat from standing up.
Oh my god. How's your friend? Did your friend make it out?
Yeah, she because of how she was laying on the floor, she kind of had her butt in the air a little bit, and her t-shirt had slid down, so she's got a burn patch above her jeans a little bit, like just
The
a strip from
the
the
world's
heat there.
worst
Because
tramp stamp?
yeah, because where she was where it was up higher into the heat. But
Wow.
she was the first one pulled out because luckily There was a gentleman in the club who was a non-smoker. He'd gone to his car to lock his leather jacket in his trunk. As he was coming back, he saw the chaos spilling out the front door. He's an off-duty police officer,
Wow.
realized what was happening, went to the door to try and pull people out, and while he was there, he heard me kicking at the window directly behind him. He realized what was happening, went back to his car, got a tire iron, came back, he smashed the window. Him and another gentleman who was an off-duty, or I don't remember if he was off-duty or retired firefighter. The 2 of them had been pulling people out of the front door. They both ended up pulling my friend that was I was there, the birthday girl that night, me, a gentleman that I'm friends with, and something like 25 other people out that window.
Oh my god. So
So,
heroes. Who are these 2?
they asked not to be named, so, I mean,
Okay,
I know
that's
them,
fair.
but I they've never come forward and, like, put their names out there, so I won't do that to them.
No, 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 that's fine.
But,
I I hope you've told them thank you every day and everyone else has, and
you
I
know, it
just wish there was
one
more
of
of
them
that.
I met at a karaoke bar one night. He
Mhm.
recognized me, and we had a conversation, and it gave him a little peace because I could tell he was a very tortured soul by what he had seen. And the other gentleman had reached out to me by phone, and we talked, and let him know that he didn't just save my life and my friends, but that that we counted something like 26 of people else out after us and all that stuff. So
Well, we could take that even further. How many children did you have before the incident?
one,
And did you have any sense?
I have my stepson now.
Steps okay, well, I'm just saying if you look at the ripple effects of future generations, people who may never have been born,
Mhm.
the effect of that action can be quite remarkable.
There are a lot of survivors who have had children since then. So there are a lot of kids out there that are only here because of couples that have met because of the fire, stuff like that. A lot of marriages, new relationships. I mean, a lot of marriages failed after the fire,
Sure.
but quite a few weddings since then too.
There's a thing about tragedies where depending on the relationships and, it's no judgment on anybody, but sometimes a couple who is distant may become closer when they suffer a tragedy. And by that, I mean, it could be losing a child. It's very often like, losing a child really strains a relationship with a couple. And sometimes losing a child will bring them closer if they were distance. And then if it's like a really tight knit family, sometimes it blows them apart. It's a tragedy is a horrible thing that can cause all kinds of effects.
Hmm.
But while we're talking about that, you mentioned these 2 guys who were there, one who went to his car, just a customer, being heroic, his friend being heroic. I haven't heard the same about Jeff Dedarian, and, Michael wasn't there, so I can't hold it against them, but what can you tell me about Jeff and Michael, and in general, and then what happened that night that you know of?
um, I can say overall that the 2 of them are lying pieces of crap when it comes to that night and what they knew and what they allowed. But on the other hand, these 2 guys had their wives and children in that bar. These 2 did not think. And of course, I mean, whoever thinks that this is gonna happen to you? Like, no one does. I mean, even now here in Rhode Island, I've been in multiple venues where the fire alarm has gone off and nobody moves. No one, like, you would think that here in Rhode Island, that the sound of a fire alarm, that people would drop their drinks and run for the nearest door, but that does not happen. Hasn't happened. Been in many, many venues and it just nobody moves. Nobody cares. They don't think it's going to happen to them. They're like, well, we've already had our disaster. Can't possibly happen again. So I kind of get where the brothers never thought it would happen to them. But subsequently, their lies, they're the two out of everyone that I feel is responsible for this fire. These are the two people that I truly hope that they get into a car accident and it rolls over and it bursts into flames, and the two of them have to live the rest of their lives knowing what it feels like to be a burn survivor, going months without being able to wipe your own butt,
Who?
stuff like that. Uh,
I don't I don't want to get salacious. Whatever you're comfortable with. And as an example, I interviewed somebody who was shot by Son of Sam, David Berkowitz, in the head. And he described his recovery and, how it went down. So whatever you're comfortable with, can you talk about, what the recovery is like? And just a basic breakdown, again, whatever you're
um,
comfortable with of the process.
I'm sure there are like pretty horrific things being stabbed, shot, maimed somehow, in a car accident, getting run over, whatever. I haven't really experienced those kind of injuries in my life. I mean, I
Sure.
did break a bone in my foot once when I was a teenager, but burns are an entirely different ball game. The pain is so excruciating after the fact that I was in a medically induced coma for about 3 weeks, just because your mind wouldn't be able to handle the pain. Like it would drive you insane. So they put you in a medically induced coma so that you can start the healing process, the surgeries, everything else. Mostly like 6 months after the fire, once I was home, I've learned to scratch my scars with my knuckles because the itch feels like it's about an inch below the surface. And
Um,
if you use your nails, you'll tear yourself up, you'll bleed, you'll get infected, or you'll make just a bigger mess out of it, and it doesn't get rid of the itch. Your best bet is to take your knuckles and just really like get in there, crank on it, and even now, it's been 22 years. The itch is still kind of maddening sometimes. It doesn't,
wow.
the nerves have regenerated and healed, but it's still a process. I have a back scratcher that's a little piece of crown molding thing that I got that I use to scratch because a regular scratcher just doesn't seem to get the spots because it's too wide or whatever. Phantom pain sometimes for things. I just had surgery, another scar release surgery, because burns, they don't stretch, they tighten up. So,
Mm.
22 years ago, these scars made me feel like I was wearing a bodysuit that was 2 sizes too small. 22 years later, it kind of feels like I'm wearing a bodysuit that's 3 sizes too small. It
Oh,
just
wow.
it forever tightens up, it contractures up. So, you have scar revisions for most of your life with burns. So, like, this is a whole new healing process and all that, and then going for the consultation, going for the surgery, going for the suture removals and all that, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the PTSD kicks in of all that time spent in a hospital. Um, it just never ever ends. It never
What about the
stops.
expense too? I would worry about that. It's not free to get that done. I mean, how is that being covered?
I mean, my injuries allow me to be on SSDI, and I do have my settlement money that I wisely have it so it's a monthly payment for the rest of my life because I didn't trust myself for the lump sum.
Like an annuity or something?
Yeah. So, and I mean, we have insurance, but
Okay.
um, in the past, like 20 years ago, some of the stuff I had to do on my face, the doctors had to make sure that it was worded properly, that them removing some of the scars off of my upper lip, under my chin, was functional and not cosmetic, because if it had been
Mm.
cosmetic, it wouldn't have been covered. But the
So
fact that the scars
so your
on the
doctors
upper,
worked with you
yeah,
on
the
that?
doctors made sure, because I mean, your face is the first thing that, that's what
Sure.
you show the world. And even to this day, it's rare for me to wear makeup because the burns, I mean, you really can't, it's not scarred the way the arms are. But to put makeup on, the pores absorb it. The line from the scar kind of, it enhances the scars almost. It makes it more
Mm.
obvious that there's something wrong with my face when I wear makeup. So I tend to go without makeup. Saves me a
Wow.
lot of money on cosmetics.
Well, there you
But
go, a silver lining.
yes.
A
Yeah.
hell of a
So
way to go about saving their money, but okay.
yeah. But I mean, burn scars, like, they're forever. Like, it's a forever injury. I know other burn survivors are still, here we are 22 years later, still doing reconstructive this, still tweaking that, because, even my hands, like the backs are scarred. If I'm not careful, this stuff can contracture up. And, I could be stuck with a fist like this. I need to work this. I have to stretch it. I have to use it. I mean, 40 years from now, when I'm in my 90s, if I'm in a facility where they don't take care of me properly, I'm going to be in a bed curled up like this because the
Wow.
scars are going to contract. And this is my positioning, is how it's going to be if I'm not properly cared for in the future.
Do you go in for regular checkups to make sure that everything is okay, or such? No,
No,
you just know.
I I tolerate a lot of aggravation and pain, and it's only when I can't deal with it anymore, like this here, this scar band being contractured up was affecting the nerve. So I had pain all through here, up into my shoulder, up into my neck, because of this scar on my wrist was
Mm.
causing pain all the way up the arm, up into my neck. So after a couple of months of it, massage not working, aspirin, I finally, had to go get it fixed, but
Is it feeling better now, though? Did it help?
oh, it worked. It does. The surgeon
Oh,
I
good.
have, I mean, he was my surgeon 22 years ago, the night of the fire.
Mm.
So he's not a spring chicken anymore. And I'm gonna hate having to I mean, he's been taking care of me for 22 years, so it's gonna stink that age is gonna require him to no longer be my doctor at some point.
Good point.
But
Wow. Do you talk with the other survivors a lot still, or do you guys get together? How does
well, for like the first 15 years after the fire, we were such a tight bunch. I mean, always together, always in a bar, always at a concert, always at a station benefit, motorcycle runs. I mean, we went to each other's weddings and baby showers. And at first, there was a group that met on Thursday nights with a professional psychiatrist, that, as a group setting. And they had talked about the fact that survivors being together as much as we were is normally unhealthy, because it just
Hmm,
reinforces the trauma of it, the
okay.
ongoing pain, the ongoing, and it just kind of keeps you in that circle of, misery, I guess.
Hmm,
She said we did a pretty good job of being positive for each other, but a great deal of us drank way too much uh,
hmm,
in those following years. I know for sure I did, to the point
hmm.
where, luckily, every bar I went into, the owners knew me and would shut me off at a point and give me a pitcher of water, and I would just sleep in my car in the parking lot after I made myself puke.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
you know, just because when you're really, really drunk, you don't itch, you don't feel the pain, the
Mm.
physical pain. And up until the party's over at 1 o'clock in the morning here in Rhode Island, when you're out with all your friends, seeing a band you guys love, it also numbs the mental anguish because you're out, you're having fun. But, when 1:30 in the morning rolls around, it's a whole new shit show.
It's like another injury almost.
Yeah, like, when the lights come up and, reality sets in and yeah. So, a few of us are still we're still friends, but
Mhm.
we are not all as involved with each other as we had been at one time.
Wow. Um, I usually like to wrap up with a final question, which is, what is the one question that I should have asked you I did not?
I don't know because you've actually asked things that others have not. Like in the past, I've done hundreds of interviews. It's always, who do you blame? Who did you go with? Did they survive? How much money did you get from your settlement? uh, do you still go to shows? Like those are like the five, like always like the ones that I always got like right off the top. And I always felt like they were trying to maneuver me into saying, oh, well, this one's at fault and that one's at fault. And I would never do that because the settlements were pending at the time. So, nothing had gone to court. Um, I guess I guess the question I would have liked you to ask would be, has anything in Rhode Island changed since the fire?
It's a great question.
And
Has
the answer
anything?
would be no.
Wow.
Um, for a short time, the laws had changed,
Mhm.
but they were ineffective, stupid laws. Like schools were no longer allowed to put the alphabet up in paper above the chalkboard because it was a fire hazard. Like,
Mm.
talk about closing the barn door after the horses already left. But to this day, there is still a lot of old buildings in Rhode Island that are exempt from, sprinkler systems because of their size or the capacity. Um, there's still I've been in a restaurant where they had a stack of chairs piled up in front of the fire exit. I mean, there's been no follow through on it when it comes to fire safety. I think Rhode Island should make February Fire Safety Month. I think we should be like leading the charge for how not to be stupid if you own a building. Kids should know. I mean, kids in Rhode Island, elementary school, middle school kids have no idea what the Station Nightclub fire was. And you're doomed to repeat mistakes if you don't learn about them.
I was going to ask you that. So, do you feel from your experience, because you said you go to see bands and stuff like that all the time, is there possibly another station nightclub fire in the waiting in Rhode Island?
At this time, no, because all of the nightclubs that we had for the most part, like the big names that used to be out in the 80s, like the station,
Mhm.
JR's, other venues, Rhode Island's we're a dry town when it comes to concerts. I mean, we have what used to be called the Civic Center in Providence, which used to hold like, Aerosmith, those kind of venues.
Mhm.
But because Rhode Island is between Connecticut and Mass, and most venues have like a rider saying if you're going to play our venue, you can't play within so many miles, which means Aerosmith doesn't come to Providence. Nobody there's no bands really anymore that play in Providence. I mean, Creed was just here, but that's the first concert I've heard about in forever. Um, it's just not because they either go to Mass or Connecticut, and Rhode Islanders don't want to drive. So, I mean, we're usually stuck, you know, traveling to go see a show these days. But like local bars, it's not the it's not the way it was 20 years ago, 25 years ago. It's not. It's a lot of karaoke or DJs or one man band kind of things. We don't have the local acts anymore. If you want to go see shows like that, there's a great venue in New Bedford that a lot of us go to.
Okay, so it's not a case of Rhode Island cleaned up their act and the clubs are now clean. It's just that the industry moved away.
Yeah, the club owners, like the staples, like we know these are the guys that own a club. They bring in the crowds. All those guys are, 70s, 80s years old. They don't have clubs. Clubs have been bulldozed. One's been turned into a car wash, another one's turned into a liquor store. I mean, the clubs just aren't here anymore.
Okay, well, maybe that's a good thing.
Probably. Since, I mean, well, Rhode Island's horrible for business anyways. I mean, we just lost Hasbro. So, this state is not conducive to making money at all.
Wow. Well, I hope it gets better over time for making money, or it finds a new footing.
That
Um,
would be
but
nice. Mm.
I am so glad that you're out here, though. I think you're an inspiration to a lot of people to survive that, and to not just survive, but to just keep moving on with, in the face of something most of us can't even imagine. I've been burnt. I can't even imagine being burnt, though. It's like many people have suffered a burn here or there or whatever, and they know, oh, it doesn't heal well. The idea of actually really being burned is truly a nightmare for a lot of people. And I salute you for marching on, having a great attitude. I mean, that's the best way I could put it, because I'm sure that if you could turn that back the clock, you would never have any of this, obviously.
Mm.
But thank
Well,
you.
I mean, I have had that thought. People ask me all the time, if you could go back in time and change this, would you? And I always have to say to myself, knowing what I know now, or not, if I change it, would never know. I can honestly say that I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I got that wish to not have been there, because me kicking at that window saved so many other people. So I couldn't trade what I've gone through for their lives. I was there, I guess, for a reason. I was just meant to be there to bang at that window so that those guys could hear us and pull us all out. It's like the Titanic sinking. If one thing had been different and wouldn't have happened, this fire, same thing. If one thing had been different, if there'd been a fire extinguisher on the stage, if there'd been any fire extinguishers there at all that night, if there had been sprinklers, if, the bouncer hadn't told people you can't go out the stage door, if just one thing had changed, so many more lives would have been saved. But, for me to change the one thing of, oh, me not being there, I mean, that would have, ended the lives of a lot of people. So I don't can't be selfish that way. I don't think that way.
Well, thank you. You are actually then a wounded warrior.
Hmm. I
And
guess. Hmm.
well, Linda, thank you so much.
Thank you.